Wow, good evening all. It's so wonderful to be here. This is quite a responsibility for me to actually have the very first speaking space in this particular conference. And I am grateful for that. But I feel a little bit bad for you because my talk is mainly on the kind of work that I'm doing, which is really pro-life advocacy, but in the African area. So I'm also quite sensitive to the fact that some people here might not have been coming for this conference in the past. Some people might just be first-time comers. Some people might be here because a friend invited them and dragged them, and this annoying pro-life friend has dragged you here. So in a way, I feel that it's a little bit of a disadvantage for you. It's like someone saying, upon a time, instead of once upon a time. So it's like mid-sentence. So I'd just like to take a few minutes, maybe 2 minutes or 3 minutes, to thank you for being here and to also encourage you for being here. Last year, I had the great privilege, if some of you came last year, I had the great privilege of coming to bore you with a talk on slavery and abortion. So it's quite different from what I'm going to be talking about today. And if any of you remember, if any of you who were here last year remember what I had actually been talking about and what we were reflecting on, it was just on how important the pro-life work is. It shouldn't be just a hobby. I know it is a hobby for some of us, but it should be much more. Because the human mind is constantly in search of justice. But not just, most people, I would say almost 100% of the people want justice for themselves. But we can even take it one step further to want justice for another group of people who have been dehumanized. That was what slavery was all about. And for the abolitionists who worked so hard to see the end of slavery, they did so, they weren't slaves themselves, but they were compelled to do so because they couldn't then just sit and watch a group of people continuously and constantly being dehumanized and brought down by society. So for pro-life people, I think it's even more compelling than it should have been at the point of time, at the point in history when slaves were legally kept. So we shouldn't accept abortion. Abortion has been made legal in our time. It's a fairly new phenomenon that abortion should be legal in the last 50 years, in the last 60 years. And like those people in the past who said no to slavery, we should say no to abortion, even if it doesn't affect you, even if you have no interest in it. But we should actually work against it. We should fight against it. And we should pray against it because abortion it should be completely unacceptable. So, as Isaac had said, most of my work I get to do outside the UK. I live here. I've lived here for 10 years. But just a little story of something that happened to me with pro-life, kind of getting involved in the pro-life movement here. A couple of weeks ago, I was speaking to a friend of mine, and she said to me that her parents were actually praying outside an abortion clinic in Wales. And I was quite surprised. She said every day they go out. It's a 40 Days for Life campaign. I'm sure a lot of you must have heard about it, where people go out and witness peacefully in front of the abortion facilities and just keep a presence there and pray and let the women know that there is someone here for you in case, just in case you could change your mind. But she said to me, of course, I was very impressed that her parents were going out to pray every day, something that I had never thought to do myself, because I get to do just like everybody else, I get to run around the world screaming at the top of my lungs, for pro-life causes. But I had never thought of doing something so local. It just never occurred to me. So she said to me that her parents pray outside this abortion clinic in Cardiff, Wales. But that the problem was that her parents didn't have a lot of people coming out to support them. So it's her parents and a bunch of other elderly people, some wonderful senior citizens. But there were some young pro-abortion activists who were coming out every day to torment her parents. And she said she was afraid, she was afraid for them because they come out every day and they pray there. And on the side, you have these crazy pro-abortion activists who would come out with their horrible banners and they'll scream obscenities and they will, all of that. So I got a little bit upset. I sometimes I act on the spur of the moment, and I said to her, I'm going to take the address and I'm going to go out to Wales. Okay, I live close to Birmingham, and I live 95 miles away from Cardiff. So I said, I can do it. One day I'm going to go out there because, one, I want to support your parents. Two, I want to see these abortion activists who are there, causing problems for them. So like 2 weeks ago, I went into my car and, drove off and went all the way 95 miles to Cardiff, found a parking space. I didn't even tell her parents I was coming. I came barged in very rudely. First of all, I went to the abortion people and I took some pictures. They didn't know who I was because I had just arrived. So they kind of posed. So I just brought out my camera like I was interested in what they were doing, and I took the pictures. And then I walked across to where they had the pro-life banner. And the mom saw me and she said, "Oh my gosh, Uju, you're here." And I said, "Yeah." So we started to pray and chat. So I was there for about 4 hours. But I noticed something happened. There seemed to be some kind of a disturbance on the other side. So they would scream, and shout and say, terrible things towards where we were standing. So they were referring to us. They were telling us we were horrible. They were using obscenities that as an African I can't even use because I'm thinking my parents will kill me. But I was so angry. God help me. I was so upset with what I saw. But this lady that I went to support kept telling me, calm down, And sometimes I would just be like, I want to say something, Janet. I just want to tell them just one thing. She would say, no, just calm down, just calm down. So we stayed there, we prayed, we chatted with people. There were people who were courageous enough to approach us and ask us what we were doing. And it kind of went almost uneventful, but other than the fact that the opposition was there. But at the end, at 4 p.m., when we were getting ready to go, and they knew we were going because I think they did it every day, so they know that at 4 p.m. the pro-life people will put down their banners and leave peacefully. So one of them came to me, and I'll tell you one thing. I was respecting the elderly couple I was praying with. That was why I didn't go out to actually fight. But another thing is that I understood as well that they had some kind of agreement that they will be peaceful. And of course, the police, if you know anything about the pro-life movement, you know that they're waiting for us to do something even out of line. So I didn't want to come there and destroy any opportunities they would have of doing work in the future. But the agreement was also to pray till 4. So 1 minute past 4, one guy came to me, like he approached me directly, and he said to me, excuse me, where can I get an abortion? Can you tell me where I can get an abortion? And I looked at him. And of course, we were standing in front of the abortion clinic, and I knew who he was, and I knew he came to taunt us some more. His friends were standing there, and of course, they're thinking, this guy is so tough. And in my mind, I said, this is 4:01, and I am going to deal with you. So I'm like, I'm gonna deal with you. So I said, what? He said, can you tell me I need to get an abortion? To start with, it was quite awkward because he's a guy, obviously. That's the first stupid thing. But I knew what he wanted. He wanted some kind of, either to intimidate me, but I said to him, no, I actually don't know where you can get an abortion. But I know where you can buy some slaves legally. He said, what? To start with, I think because the pro-life people who had been coming are so peaceful. They're so peaceful. To the point that I don't think they actually expected any kind of response. But a crazy person had come. So I said to him, no, I know where you can buy some slaves legally. And he said, what? I said, yeah, if in your country, in this your country, you can get legal abortion, then yes, you should be fighting to get legal slavery as well, so that you can put me into the market and sell me. Like, he ran off so quickly. He ran so quickly that it was just so funny to watch. But the reason why I'm saying this really is that it's quite easy. Anybody who watches the dynamics and the movement between the pro-life people and pro-abortion people, wherever they are, you would see that the pro-abortion people try to capitalize on any weakness. If they feel these are elderly people, yeah, we're young, so we can use swear words and we can insult them and we can do whatever. They always try to capitalize on weakness. But as I was walking away that day, I was telling myself, I wish I can get some young people from Cardiff who are pro-life and who will stand here every day next to these elderly people and be their protection while they pray, or pray with them as well. We are young. Okay, I am older than you. I'm not young, but you are young, and you can be all that much of you can make all that much of a difference to any initiative to protect the unborn. It can never be too menial. It can never be too little. It can never be too, unimportant. It's 40 days for life, so what? But it's 40 days when you can actually go out and fight some crazy people by your presence, of course, peacefully. But you do it now in 2016, it might not seem like much. But in the year 2076, yes, I know what I'm saying, sci-fi. By the year 2076, when your descendants look back at your life, they will know that you came face to face with the horror of abortion, and you said no to it. You tried peacefully and prayerfully to defy it. So don't miss out on the very ordinary opportunities that you may have to say no to abortion, to reject it and fight it. So that is my 2 minutes gone. So now I start my talk, which I hope I can really... How long do I have? What time do I have till? Yeah? When does this talk end? Rosalind? 9. Sorry, 8:45. I will try. Okay. So last year I came for a conference and I came to speak. And Rosalind had Isaac introduced me, but last year Rosalind introduced me, and I felt she made a mistake because she stood here and she said, oh, I want to introduce Uju, and she's coming to speak about the culture of life in Africa and all the work she does. And of course I had prepared this talk on slavery for like 2 months before, and I matched out, and I took the microphone and I said, actually, no, I'm not here to talk about that. I'm just here to talk about slavery, and poor child, she was so shamed. But today I'm the one who am shamed because On that day, what Rosalind meant to tell you is that in a year's time, I would like to introduce to you Uju, who will come in 12 months, and she will be talking on this. Where I come from, there is something we call people like her. We call them prophetess. We call them clairvoyant. So thank you so much, Rosalind, for giving me an introduction 12 months before. So as you all know, my name is Uju, and I will be speaking on how to help a continent to flourish a defensive life in Africa. So now, I would just start by pointing out what, for us, the views that we have on human life in Africa. I don't know, here abortion is legal, and most of the developed countries, actually, abortion is legal, but that's not quite the case in Africa. So I'd just like to start by telling you that where I come from, I come from Nigeria, but not just Nigeria, but so many other countries in Africa, actually a majority of the countries, you're going to see that in a minute, people actually believe that life is precious from conception. So even from when one is little, your parents put this notion in your mind that if a woman is pregnant, there is already a child. It's not, you know, a number of my aunties growing up, when I was growing up, I remember even now as a very old person, when I had all these aunties around me who were either suffering from infertility and all whatnot, but every time my parents will ask me, with my brothers and sisters, they would say, you kneel down, let's pray for the fruit of the womb, you know, so, and they were really like 5 years old, so, but we believe so much that life is from conception, and motherhood is always celebrated, and children should always outlive their parents. So when abortion actually occurs, that means that a child has died before you, and that is terrible. That's most unfortunate. And that's why Africa remains pro-life, overwhelmingly so. So to be pro-life in Africa, I have done some work. A lot of my work actually is done in Africa. That's the point. But I have been to several African countries. I get to go out. I get the privilege to go out there several times a year to whether organize March for Life events or conferences. And I know I have dragged with me a number of people here. Emmy has gone with me. Rosalind has gone with me. John. Many people actually have come from here with me to support the people. It's not that the people don't already know to be pro-life, but just to give support or to speak to them or give expertise. But I will tell you something, that as I stood at that Cardiff place and I was watching all these horrible things being said to us and watching people carrying all these ugly banners to insult us for carrying just one very small placard that said, pray against abortion. I was just missing home, missing home because it's so easy to be pro-life in Africa. It's so easy. And I'll show you some pictures now. So this is a march that we did a few years ago. And these are just kids carrying placards. They're just written on paper. It says, God owns life. Okay, Chinwendu, which is a name that we also, is a girl's name, but Chinwendu actually means that God owns life. The other one says, thou shalt not kill. I don't know how these girls will be received on the streets of London, but this was the street of Owerri, and of course, everybody was just cheering them, even people who weren't part of the march. We do have an indomitable pro-life spirit. John Smeaton was here on the day that this happened, but sometime last year, we went out to Accra, Ghana for a March for Life, which was, so energetic. It was incredible, but you can see this woman was dancing. We had people who were playing trumpets. Is the light coming on? Do you need, voila, okay, is that better? Voila, good. So we had people who were playing trumpets. It was unbelievable. It was so loud, but we went through the market. We went through the main market. So imagine marching on Oxford Street with trumpet blasts, right? So when this woman had her Save the Unborn and she put it into the back of her dress and she was dancing and she didn't care what anybody felt, but people actually just cheered on. People cheered. So people, you can see one of the marches we did, and this little child is holding a rosary, praying, her heart out for life. That's her mother there. and there's lots of people. This was also another part of that march. We were having a rosary procession, but this lady on her wheelchair, the reason why this picture moves me so much is that we don't have ramps, right? So things are not all that easy. The roads are not all that wheelchair friendly, but this lady actually did 3 miles on her wheelchair, but it was all for pro-life cause as well. This was one that we had in Douala, Cameroon, and the women were saying a big no to abortion. The reason why I decided to put a lot of pictures in this presentation is so that, you will go out somewhere someday and someone tells you, the African women are just suffering because people are forcing them. They're forcing them to bear children. It's like forced motherhood. But you tell them that is actually a stupid notion because you have seen pictures that have come from the heart of Africa, and people actually do resent the idea that any child can be aborted. People believe it's an attack on human life. That was, again, another one from Ghana, and it says the youth of Ghana say no to abortion. So, again, overwhelmingly pro-life. That imagine that you're having a march for life and you are marching through maybe Birmingham, as we had last year. It's Birmingham, isn't it? So you're marching for life and you're carrying this placard that says, we say no to abortion. And then you find a filling station, a Shell, or a Total, what are the AP station? And you walk in there with your placard, and the people working, people on duty, just run out, and look at this woman, she's working, she's not with us, but she's saying, like, no to abortion. So these are the things that we take for granted, but I know that you can never do that here. And to do it, you have to have all this police clearance, and yet they tell you still you cannot walk into someone's business or whatever, but that's not quite the way it is. So that's another one as well we had in Abuja. John was also there on that day, and I saw John, he was so excited after this. This was the first time John came with me to Nigeria. And I said, John, how do you think, how do you see this? He said, I just want to make a tent and live here. So, sorry, John, but that's, it's just wonderful to see so many people who believe in the dignity of human life. Oh, that's me. And that was quite recent. That was actually 3 weeks ago. I was in Cape Town in South Africa. I will tell you a little bit about the problem we have in South Africa, but I went for the March for Life there. And you can see the Table Mountain behind me. If any of you are mountain climbers, it's really one of the most spectacular, they have one of the most spectacular mountain ranges out there, and that's the Table Mountain. So it wasn't a very big pro-life march because they do have legal abortion. So it's quite grim, but I decided to go out there to support the pro-life people 3 weeks ago, so that's great. So this was in Kenya, and of course it says abortion is not healthcare. It's not, I said here, Africans understand the truth. That doesn't mean that people here do not understand the truth. People here know the truth. A colleague of mine, who of course is very pro-choice, she's like 14 weeks pregnant. I don't know, she's really very early stages of pregnancy. And the other day she went and had a scan, and she brought in the picture, and everybody's jumping, and and I'm dancing, and I'm so excited about it. But in my mind, I kept feeling, what do you think about this child? Is it a child yet? Because I could see everything, and I was telling her we should frame it. So when I'm on night shift, I can run in and look at this picture and run out. But then a few days later, after taking that clear picture, that ultrasound picture, she still was telling me, I'm 38 years old, and I don't know how this pregnancy will go, if there's a problem, I don't know if everything will go well. But of course, I was telling her, no, everything will go well. I will help you. I will move into your house and serve. I will cook for you, So anything to make it work. But everybody understands the truth. But it's whether we are willing to accept it and confront it and act from the point of truth. Of course, those are our wonderful bishops. You may have heard, I don't know how many of you are Catholics here, but some of our African bishops have been making headlines from Rome and everywhere, and it's always so encouraging to watch and see them. But this is just a few of our bishops who came out to march with us. out in Abuja, Nigeria. That was 2 years ago. So, but the reality of abortion, yes, there's still abortion in Africa, okay? Because Africa is a very male-dominated society, and people expect men in Africa to marry a person if they get them pregnant. So anything happens, you get pregnant, the first thing the girl's father would say is, where is the man? Because the man will be forced to marry you. And that is the right thing. It's called a shotgun wedding. And many people have it. but men hate that, you know, and even more so now where, of course, culture is changing and everything is westernizing, even out there in Africa. And a lot of men reject that idea, right? If they feel she's not too hot, yeah? It's not my fault I got you pregnant. Then they always want to force the girl to get an abortion. So in other words, abortion is almost always a case of, of coercion. It's always forced, or somebody rejects you, someone betrays you. So it happens. Our healthcare systems are heavily influenced by the West. That means that a lot of our medical books are from here. A lot of our doctors are trained in London. A lot of them, those who are not trained in London, are being lectured to by professors who have either been trained here. So there is that influence from the West. In as much as I know, in Nigeria, a lot of the medical schools that I have asked about actually don't teach abortion as part of their curriculum in med school, which is a good thing. But people are fighting against that. Some organizations that I will show you who keep lobbying for abortion to be part of the procedure and protocols that are studied in med school. Now, a little while ago, I don't know if some of you saw it, those people who read pro-life websites, a doctor was arrested in Sudan, South Sudan, for performing abortion. A doctor. But abortion is not legal in Sudan. Now, when I read this story, it's kind of funny because the doctor studied where? He studied in Britain. He graduated here. He learned to do abortion. He went out to Africa and started to perform many, many abortions until eventually he was apprehended. Weasel. Okay, so a lot of the healthcare workers are also underpaid, so some of them try to do some extra on the side. You hear this thing about, yeah, Africa has a lot of backstreet abortions. Yeah, well, maybe that is true, but many doctors also do perform abortions illegally, but they're doctors. So the fight that we are having now is that when abortion is legalized, these doctors just go from an illegal practice to legal practice. They don't get to change anything. They just get to bring out the nice signposts that say, women's clinic, enter here, all right, and put it in the front yard. And those are the people that, unfortunately, the United Nations and all these people are fighting for to make it legal. So they are underpaid. Of course, a lot of them, yes, are underpaid and they want extra money, and abortion does bring in extra revenue. We don't have crisis pregnancy centers. That's just not enough. So women are often stranded. And of course, in as much as there's all these countries in Africa where abortion is not legal, we don't still have the right kind of enforcement in order to make it really impossible for these horrible doctors to perform abortions illegally. Because, of course, everything is stretched. And so the police people just feel, unless something goes wrong, normally a doctor who has his abortion facility raided is probably because a girl has died there or somebody has been hurt, but they don't go around checking. And so there is a lot of illegal abortions. Now, in Africa has how many countries? Does anyone know? 54. 54 countries. And out of the 54, we do have 4 countries where there is legal abortion. The first one is Tunisia. The second one is South Africa. The third one is Cape Verde. The fourth one is Mozambique, that fell a few years ago. 2014, they legalized abortion. They didn't tell anybody. The president signed it in secret to show you that abortion is not a big achievement. It didn't make it to national news. So it was all secretly done. But recently we started having this fight in Sierra Leone. So I put it with the legal because it has been passed by the parliament last December. On 8th of December last year, the parliament came together and they passed this horrible bill called the Safe Abortion Act of 2015. So they took it to the president, who was now supposed to sign this bill into law. And as, thank God, that the religious leaders came together, the interreligious leaders, so the different Christian denominations and the Muslims went to the president and told him not to sign it, and the president has now held back on it. The point is, he still might sign it, we don't know. But at least he has had a big delay on it, and a lot of people are running around like rats, saying that women want abortion, and that the women need abortion. So this is the news that I was reading in the Mail, Daily Mail here in the UK, that one I read 2 days ago, and it was like all these religious men versus women's health. It's like men's fate against women's health. As if no woman in Sierra Leone is pro-life, but that's of course, that's how they're framing it, so that everybody would think the men are really trying to prevent abortion from being legal and from all these women being saved. But abortion is illegal with exception of the life of the mother in all the other countries, and of course there are places with variations like Ethiopia and all that, but those are nuanced cases. But anyway, if you check it, 80% of the countries in Africa continue to protect the unborn. Now, about Sierra Leone, I told you, the people of Sierra Leone actually do say no. Because when I read this news, of course I had been speaking with some of my contacts there who are bishops in the country, and it's so disturbing because of course they tell me that the people actually do not want abortion to be legal. But then I open a newspaper, or you go to the internet and you find all these British journalists insisting that it's the men versus the women's health. So one of the bishops actually went out one day when there was a kind of a mini march, and he got me a picture from his mobile phone, which I applaud him for. And that's a women's group. That says National Strategic Women Civil Society Association of Sierra Leone say no to abortion. No man. So these are women. And he said to me there were about 400 of them, but he actually just got this picture. Then that's another newspaper he sent to me, just a picture of a newspaper. And if you read there, it says abortion is not part of our culture. These are just daily papers. It says Sierra Leone youths urge His Excellency and the elected parliament to pause on the action, pause all action on abortion bill. So really, the people are against abortion. They're fighting furiously against it. Now, where it is legal, in those countries where it's legal, with South Africa as a perfect example, because I don't know what happens in Tunisia, I've never been there, but I have been to South Africa, and it is a grim situation. Abortion was legalized in 1996, which then went into effect in 1997. Who legalized it? Nelson Mandela, whom we all love and admire. But yes, he did bring legal abortion to his people. And he's dead now, but it is still a bloodbath and will continue to be a bloodbath until somebody actually stops that horrible law from just completely remove it. Girls are being forced to have abortion in South Africa. It is legal. So of course, even the rate of marriage has gone down. And girls get pregnant, have abortions, the boys force them, the men force their fathers force. So it's a horrible situation. They have a very weakened marriage culture, with a weakened family culture. 3 generations of women living together as grandmother, mother, it's all single mothers. It's ridiculous. There is still gross medical malpractice. There is, of course, abortion-related trauma. There is sexual violence in South Africa. If anybody didn't know, South Africa is rape capital of the world. Okay, when I went there, I couldn't step out because I was only there for 4 days. But every time I just kind of stick to my host because I've heard so much about South Africa, and it's not very nice, and the violence against women is incredible. There's a coercion of faith, of course, and oh yes, they're still having illegal abortions. Those who say that legal abortion will actually help to end the horror of illegal abortion, well, this is what it looks like in South Africa. Look at some of the things on the streets. These are illegal abortion facilities. Advertising. This one is by Lady Grace, who will give quick, safe, and pain-free abortion. Pain-free. So it's a code, you know. So I went to visit some of my friends who are nuns in the community, and of course they know what I do, and they were just telling me, oh, this pain-free, you know, when we go on the streets, it's all pain-free. You just see the posters everywhere. That's Lady Grace giving abortions. That is Dr. Jim giving abortions, safe and pain-free. That is Dr. Tandu giving abortions. So it's all over the place. And yet they have legal abortion. And yet they're forcing other African countries to legalize abortion because they're telling us if you legalize it, then we will end the era of illegal abortions. But that's, of course, a lie. The effects of abortion, everybody knows what the effects of abortion is. Yes, I'm going to go through this one very quickly, but of course people die in abortions. In addition to the babies that die, in every successful abortion there's at least one dead, right? And many, many times, 2 dead. So death and all the psychological problems and all the depression and insomnia and suicidal tendencies, anxiety, medical complications. These are things that we find in abortion, even in places where it's legal, even in developed countries, it is a problem. It continues to be a problem. But those who push abortion, they try to mask all of these. But it is crazy. I work in a hospital here. I work in the blood transfusion department. And of course, in our hospital, they have a maternity ward, a delivery suite, where they're meant to be delivering babies. But in that same delivery suite, they are still aborting babies, killing babies, which is the irony. Horrible irony. But many times, I'm actually called out to do extra duty by providing blood because somebody is bleeding. And when I ask them, why is she bleeding? Then you find out that they're actually trying to abort a child. And God help me, the woman is also struggling for her life. Yeah, that is legal abortion.
I was born in a hospital where there was people being aborted around me, like it's abortion.
That's it.
Is that St. George's Hospital?
It's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah,
one
my
room.
mom said there's like 2 people around having an
Look
abortion
at that.
at the same time. She didn't know what they were doing, but yeah, there was like 2 women having an abortion.
While you're being born. That's it. So room 1. Yeah, room 1, it's delivery. Room 2, abortion. Room 3, it is horrible. And this is why, as young pro-life activists, you must get to a point where you draw the line and say, you will never participate in this. And not just participating, but you will say that you will be actively against it. So that come the year 2086, right, when cars are flying in the sky, that your descendants will see that you were so crazy about defending human life that you actually did it. You actually did it. But anyway, there's all these problems, of course, and women are the ones who suffer it the most. Men also suffer, but women are the ones who suffer it the most. But anyway, when women are given the chance, most times in Africa, women choose life. So I went to Ghana last year, and I was invited to the convent of one of the missionary sisters of charity, Mother Teresa's sisters. They said to me, oh, come to our house, we take care of people, and there are some girls there who are actually expecting their babies, and some of them wanted to have abortions, but we just saved their babies, and they're there, and they would love to meet you. So I went out there. This other little tiny one, she's like 15 years old, she had just had a baby. But this other one, the one at the end, she was going to have an abortion, in Ghana, you can actually get an abortion in rape cases. So, of course, a lot of times people go and they say, oh, we were raped. But anyway, she was considering having an abortion, and the sisters got her, and they begged her not to have an abortion. They begged her, they said, please don't have an abortion. But then, after a while, she found out at the hospital that she was going to have twins. So when I came to their house, she was telling me, I was asking her, when are you due? She said, oh, like in 3 weeks. And then she said to me, but I'm having twins. But I was looking at how small her tummy was. And in my mind, I was thinking, oh, I think they've misdiagnosed you. No, you don't look like you're going to have twins. In my mind, this was what I was thinking, of course, but I was so happy for her and everything. But I was thinking, are you sure it's twins? She said, yeah, they told me it's twins. So I said, oh, you're going to be disappointed on that day. But 3 weeks later, she had her baby, and a week after, she sent me this picture. 2 babies, not one, a boy and a girl. So that's amazing. Anyway, these are some of the people who are promoting the culture of death in Africa. The Planned Parenthood people, they're called the IPPF, International Planned Parenthood Federation. That's their international front. They have the Mary Stopes. They have Kenya, Uganda. I mean, Mary Stopes is everywhere. There is IPAS. There is UCAID, which is your own organization that you pay for with your taxes. Some people know them as DFID, the Department for International Development. They are pushing abortion all over the world. It's crazy. There is USAID, there is UNFPA, right? Yeah, we do have our own blue doors. Anybody who prays outside an abortion clinic would know what blue doors mean. This was in South Africa, the one that I went to 3 weeks ago. And I took this picture myself, and that is an abortion clinic. Yes, it's a Mary Stopes clinic, and you can see the white girl and the black girl there, and they're all looking very chummy. And of course, yes, in South Africa, the one place where you're going to see something so beautiful like this is somewhere where they're telling women to come kill your children, black and white, come on in through our blue doors. Okay, but this is a small example of what DFID is doing in Africa. This is their document that I got about a little while back on how they spend money. They have spent money in the 5 years leading up to 2015. Sorry, it looks crazy, but look here. Right? Reproductive and maternal and newborn health, and this is all in millions of pounds. So this is how they have spent money. If it has reproductive, right? There are some countries like Pakistan and some of the Muslim countries, there is no reproductive, it's just money for maternal and newborn health. But for African countries, there is reproductive. That means abortion is part of it. That means, contraception. All these things, they are moving it under the title reproductive. Now look at how much they spent in 2010. 3.8 million pounds. The following year, they kind of went down, I think recession, dried pockets. 2012, it increased, more money, 6.2 million. 2013, more money, 9.6 million. Now look at what they spent in 2014. The money more than doubled. So everything else, most of the other things that the United Kingdom spends on, in this particular country, this was for Kenya. And it's like that for most of the other countries. The money goes down. But for abortion and for all of these things that have to do with reproductive rights, they're increasing their budget. It's crazy. So the causes of maternal death. I will be speaking at the UN next week, and this is one of the things that I'll be speaking on. So they tell us that abortion will help us to reduce maternal health. Will help us to reduce maternal mortality. And a lot of the African countries are buying it. A lot of our leaders don't know any better, unfortunately. And so when the UN is recommending, there is one crazy part of the UN called the UN Women. They have a commission called CEDAW. CEDAW will come with these high recommendations. We think you should remove all restrictions against abortion. so that women can live in pregnancy. So they come in with their horrible, twisted language, but this is actually something that is very easy to see because the World Health Organization has done the studies. Why women die when they're giving birth? It's very hard to see on the left, but these are all the reasons, and the percentage is that 33.9% of the cases is because of bleeding, and then there's all these other things as indirect causes, as HIV, all of that. Now, abortion, women die having abortions in not even 4% of the cases. But the UN and all these international organizations and all these donor countries, they are putting every effort. 90% of the effort goes into legalizing abortion because they say if you do it, women will stop dying when they're giving birth. But they leave everything else and they want to save us this 4%. But even when you look at the developed countries, which is here, 8.2% of death linked to abortion. So we're even better than every other subgroup. And yet, they tell Africans that one thing we need to do is have abortions legalized. These are some of their strategies. I think I've run out of time, so I'm going to just cut through this very quickly and miss one part of this presentation. But some of the strategies they're using is that they're telling us that it's a public health issue. And once you say that, then it's hard for the leaders to say they're against abortion because then you're against public health and you're against the health of women. They're distorting the language, they're twisting the language. The abortion bill that was passed in Sierra Leone that I told you about is actually called the Safe Abortion Act of 2015. The one in South Africa, the earlier ones, South Africa and I think Mozambique, if you look at them, there's something like Termination of Pregnancy Act or Termination of Pregnancy Bill or something like that. But now, the new method and the new technique is to say that Safe Abortion Act, the Safe Abortion Act or Safe Abortion Bill. So when you say you're against it, you have to say you're against the Safe Abortion Bill. It's so hard to do because once the safe goes in there, it's actually hard for pro-life people to fight it. So I drafted one letter that I sent to the parliament begging them not to do it. If they have been bribed, I know that they're not going to listen to me. But anyway, I still did a month ago. And honestly speaking, it was so hard for me to start off drafting this letter because I had to say, please do not pass the safe abortion, So it seems so difficult because they have twisted the words and they've twisted the language and they make it so hard for anybody who wants to fight it. They're using statistics that I don't know where they get it from. They tell us that 47,000 women die every year because of illegal abortions. I don't know how they counted. I don't know where they counted. We didn't see them in Nigeria counting, but they're telling us 47,000 are dying. But we're not doing any studies, so we cannot fight them based on those statistics. But they are lobbying our leaders like anything. It's hard to work with our African leaders because before you get there, they've already gotten there. They use beautiful girls. They do everything right. They take them on retreats. And when we come, we're poor and we're wretched and we're begging them to not do it and we don't have any money. So it's hard. But anyway, we still hope that the culture of the people will still come through. They're campaigning at the United Nations, they're campaigning at the EU, they're campaigning everywhere. I will be at the UN next week. It will be hard because we're talking about abortion as well, but we know that we will get some good opposition or some bad opposition, depends on how you're looking at it. They're doing some horrible media campaigns. And they're re-educating our African youth, trying to cause problems between the younger generation and the older generation. So this is the part that I'm going to just skim through. The Sustainable Development Goals, everybody has heard about it. A lot of it is good. So a lot of it is geared towards reducing poverty and all that, right? So we can all agree. We need hunger to end. We need poverty to end. We want more people educated. The problem is the people in charge are pro-abortion. So every time something like this comes to the UN or comes to the nations through the United Nations, they will always put in a very difficult phrase SDGs or a part of it will have to do directly with abortion. So it's okay, the SDGs, but you tell people when you're having a conversation with them that there are two parts of it at least that are really horrible, because they are the ones that where abortion has been promoted. So it's the 3.7 where they talk about ensuring universal access to sexual and reproductive health care services. That is code, and everybody knows what that means. And they refuse to remove it, so it stays there, and that was about the target number, that was goal number 3, and the goal number 3 is about health care. Goal number 5 is about women equality, but if you look at these two parts of it, it's almost like they've copied and pasted, right? But these are two different things, just to make sure that if pro-life people remove one, there is still another one. So it's exactly the same. Ensure universal access to sexual, it's the same. This is one document, but they make sure that in every aspect of it, we will have something that we object to. But since the countries are going to accept it all because they want education and everything else, they get through. It's horrible. So South Africa is already scoring high points because they say ensure that there is universal, universal access to whatever, sexual and reproductive health care. This was what I saw in the toilet when I went to the airport. And I put my hand there because I didn't want anyone to think I took it from the internet. I don't use nail polish, so you can see my, so I can tell someone I took this picture, right? In the toilet. And it's everywhere, like any government or public toilet, it's there. It's always like free condom, free this, free that. And even in the UK, you can't see this, but that's what happens in Africa when they bring in these horrible things. Of course, in Africa, it goes well overboard. So it's disgusting. So these are those horrible indicators. Forget about it. You'll get it online, okay? But these are some of the phrases that were put in the UN document, that girls should be making choices by themselves at 15. Disgusting, but yes, it's there. The UN has promoted it. It's by UNFPA. Then the UN women, the horrible ones I talked about, who put all the bad things, said that women should have everything regardless of their marital status. Stupid Africans who believe people should be married, right, before anything happens. But regardless of this, they should have access to their abortion and whatever. These are all objectionable. So I am calling to you, younger people, you energetic ones, you wonderful pro-life youth, to please, when you think about your pro-life work or your pro-life activism, think about it, yes, as local, as I started off saying, but also quite global, that you should look out, because one day you might be working for DFID, if you're unfortunate. One day you might be an MP, if you are unfortunate. But one day you can really be in a position of authority, and you can help to influence some of these things, and you can help to check it, because they put it into everything, into every document, every initiative, even the good things have bad things in them. So I hope that this will encourage you, that you will work with Africa in mind, you would work with us, you would work within Africa, and you will work for the betterment of the African people. You can promote things like this, okay? We're not isolationists. We want to deal with people, but we need real healthcare, we need education, we need life to be protected, and we need peace. And if you're smart, you can see that it spells out help. Okay? Well, it took me a while to figure this out. But anyway, I thank you.